All right, a minute in of goofing around, and now it's time to get started. I'm so glad to see you here. This is Sonia from An Enthusiastic Reader. Welcome to my channel. This is my last recent reads for 2019. I wrote up some little descriptions of the books that I read, which I read quite a few while I was on vacation, and I had a great time. And let's just get started with the books, should we? Shall we? Let's do it. The first book I finished was a book called All This Could Be Yours by Jami Attenberg. And the premise of this book is that there's a man who's in his late 60s. He hasn't been nice to anyone in his life, and he suffered a stroke. And so the whole book is about his family members. He has a daughter and a son who are grown and a wife. And it's about... So it's about them thinking about him, telling their stories about how his toxic behavior through the years affected their lives, especially his wife. Well, more about why she stayed with him when she could have left, and the weird family dynamics between mothers and daughters, fathers and daughters, fathers and sons. So I really liked Jami's writing in this book. Some of it's very funny. She makes a lot of observations about culture and about status, money, opportunity, and what the role of women are in society. So it's, I'd say, pretty feminist, and I enjoyed it a lot. It might be a good book club book if that's the kind of book club you're in. The next book I read was an arc of a memoir called Uncanny Valley by Wiener, and this was so good. I happen to have kids who have been involved or are right now involved in working in tech. I have one kid who's a software developer, and the other one thought about it and it wasn't a good fit for her, so she decided not to do it. But so I feel like I'm kind of seeing the tech world through their experiences, and then through the memoir of this woman who is about their age. I think she's probably close to 30 now. And she was someone who had an English degree, or an English background, an English degree, didn't know what to do with it, was working in publishing, and decided somehow to get herself she kind of stumbled into a job in the tech world. She ended up working, I think it was called Oyster. It was like the Netflix for books that is now shut down, I believe. But she was one of the startup people in that business. They kind of hired her to do miscellaneous work that wasn't coding. And from there, she ended up working in several different places. And this is the memoir of her journey from job to job, what she learned, the excesses of the industry, the misogyny of the industry, and how all of these big, huge companies their whole goal in life is to get us to be online all the time so they can get our data. And at the beginning, it wasn't supposed to be like that. And her take on it is that it's a pretty toxic industry, and we should be evaluating why we spend so much time online. And, I have been online for decades now, and in various AOL chat rooms. Then, I read a lot of blogs. I mean, I've just been there for the whole journey, and I do agree with her that maybe what was once considered something very important that could make society better has definitely not made society better on the whole. So this will be coming out in January. I highly recommend it. I know that there is going to be criticism that there's a lot of navel gazing, but I mean, I think some navel gazing, or some inward introspection is what I'd rather call it, is something we could all probably benefit from as we evaluate our relationship to technology and to the online world. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is Cousin Pons by Balzac. I did this in a group read with Brian from Bookish. We read this book together. It's a relatively short novel about treasure hunting. I mean, you could just say that that's the umbrella theme of this book, is that everyone's looking for treasure, and everyone in this society, in Balzac's frame of reference in this particular story, is greedy. There's a very poor man named Pons. He has amassed what is called the bric-a-brac, and they're like little treasures, art. He's, you know, to the detriment of the rest of his life, he has spent all of his money on these beautiful little treasures, and he has a huge collection. And once it gets out to his greater circle that he actually owns all this stuff, everyone starts trying to scheme about how they could be the beneficiaries of his estate and how they can maybe speed that along. And it's really sad, but it's also very funny. It's satirical. I mean, some of the criticism of the book is that everyone is like a caricature of so greedy and so cynical, and I think that's true. But I think it's satirical in a way. Anyway, I did like the book, but I actually liked the reading of the book better than I liked the book. I was hoping for a different outcome than I got on the plot of that book, and the discussions I had with the other people were great. So anyway, that was a really positive experience for me. We have here. Okay. I finished a short story collection called You Think It, I'll Say It by Curtis Sittenfeld. And all of the characters in these stories in this collection are people that are middle-aged or, you know, about to become middle-aged, trying to find love or evaluating the love that they have, the relationships they have. There's a secret relationship in one of the stories. There are some twists on gender identity in a story. There's just a lot going on, but the stories are always funny, and the characters are always flawed, and their motivations might be suspect, but you still end up kind of liking the characters. She humanizes everyone in the story, no matter what their role. And one great story is about a woman on her honeymoon, and she runs into her nemesis from high school who's also on her honeymoon at the same time. And the psychological interplay between these characters, and the one character who was mean to the main character doesn't really remember any of the bad stuff, and it calls into question all of the relationships in the story. Anyway, if you like relationship stories and introspection and humor and just what it's like to be alive in this age now in terms of dating and marriage, I recommend this one. It was a 5-star book for me. I ended up finishing Rachel Cusk's Coventry essays, and some of these essays in this collection I liked better than others. I liked all of the personal essays much more than I liked the art criticism or the literary criticism. She, as she did in all of her novels, her outline novels, she is questioning the role of women in society, feminism, the power dynamics in marriages, and the way that we've structured our marriages and our parental relationships to favor one side or the other. She also questions her own parenting in this, which I really liked. And the main essay, Coventry, or the named essay about her parents putting her in exile in various times and like just totally icing her out of their lives or their attention when she displeases them, was really strong. So I'd say it was hit or miss for me. I like her fiction better than her essays, I think, but I still love Rachel Cusk and want to read more of her backlisted novels. I'm currently reading The Magus by John Fowles. My daughter got this book for me on the recommendation of a friend who works in publishing, and I have never read, I think I read The Collector when I was a teenager, and I probably didn't understand it, but I've read 20% of The Magus, and it's really interesting. The premise is a very egocentric man has a thwarted love affair, and he's hurt, and he decides to go teach at a small school on a Greek island. He's not a very nice person. He's very learned, but he's really interesting, and the writing in this book is so good. And what I think it's going to be about is that he has to match wits with this other eccentric, egocentric millionaire who... what I'm thinking of as I'm reading this book is that it's almost like the premise of a video game. You're the protagonist, you have to find clues, you're trying to figure out the mystery of the game, and I think that's kind of maybe what this is like. And it also reminds me of if you've watched Lost when it was on, and all of the clues that kept getting thrown to you about this bigger agenda that really actually never really came together, which is one of my greatest pet peeves of endings of television that I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, the Magus is really interesting. I don't think a lot of people might like it. It's very, it's pretty misogynistic, and there's a lot of eroticism in it, which I kind of actually like. But yeah, you have to put aside a lot of your pet peeve or your peevishness about writing about women in certain ways, because that's definitely a big part of this protagonist's worldview. I don't know if it was part of John Fowles' worldview or if it's just in the book, but anyway, I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I can't believe this is the end of 2019, and I think it was a very, very successful reading year, and my best of 2019 video is coming very soon. I'm going to film it later, and I did do the write-up and post it on Facebook and got a good reaction from the write-up, so my video will be based on that, but that's my plan, and I just will continue to do good things and read good books and enjoy the good company of my booktube viewers and other booktubers and the bookish world. So happy new year. I will talk to you later, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.